Once again this year, the conversation about your school choice is in our legislature. Welcome to My State of Mind. I am Dan York. Thank you very much for tuning in for yet another evening of conversation, my thoughts, your thoughts on your state of mind. My guest tonight, Mike Stenhouse, is back from the Center for Freedom and Prosperity. He brings with us his education adjunct scholar, former school committee member in Providence, Gertrude Jones. They together are going to talk to us about legislative packages and ideas to promote the idea of school choice. This is a conversation which rings telephones off the hook on the radio because people demand that for their taxpayer dollar, they're able to put their private school kid into vouchers and the whole thing. And I always seemingly get into a fist fight over this, not literally, because I have some unexpected thoughts about it. So stay tuned. We shall run through that and set the scene for what ought to be a lot of conversation this legislative session. In the meantime, let us go to the rundown and see what's going on. Yeah, this is a little different situation depending on whether you're in Europe or in America. I was just daydreaming today, thinking about a story that I saw in East Providence and wondering, maybe this is an interesting conversation. The arguments made by the union are not very strong, yet I have some empathy here, and we'll share that empathy with you. What else do we have? Yes, the mayor of Providence enters into the Twittersphere, and I guess that's productive, but I think it shows the limitations. And that was a hell of a ball game last night, don't you think? That's a franchise. That could be a legacy. All right, dig in. Newspapers, tentative. First, let me remind you that the White House ate some crow over not sending a high-ranking official, and I guess that means either the president, the vice president, the secretary of state, the attorney general, who was already in Paris but left before that Sunday multi-million person event. Josh Earnest, press secretary, late yesterday, said this.
Some have asked whether or not the United States should have sent someone with a higher profile than the ambassador to France. And I think it's fair to say that we should have sent someone with a higher profile to be there.
So the White House showing a little humility, backpedaling a little bit, no big deal. You know, just reflections, I think I mentioned it yesterday. Folks on the radio were kind of talking about, you know, how refreshing it was to see European leaders kind of standing up against terrorism without necessarily our, pushing them from behind. But different folks, different strokes, different ideas on that. But what's really intriguing, tomorrow, Charlie Hebdo has a new edition with obviously a skeleton staff, and front page, here's the headline of the New York Times about the reaction to it. Yeah, and here is their cover page. Now, it's interesting that this, came from the New York Times. By the way, that means all is forgiven. Of course, I am Charlie, and that is Muhammad. And so what's really interesting is that the newspapers that actually will reflect on the story are being very, very careful to qualify that this is not their editorial satirical position. It is their reporting on Charlie Hebdo's satirical editorial position. Charlie Hebdo down to one cartoonist because it's not like there's a layoff. I mean, people were killed. It's a horror show. But they're fighting back, still continuing to ridicule, which is what they do within their First Amendment rights. Many European daily newspapers won't put that full screen up because they think it hits too close to home. So it's a very delicate and tentative situation. And a lot of people say, well, we got to fight for our First Amendment rights. Well, it depends on whether or not you're in the middle of the ring, right? We'll follow it as the week wears on. Coming back home, so there was this headline in the Providence Journal today about this long-term, well over 10 years worth of aggravation that East Providence, the city of, and this New York developer have had for this 27 acres on the East Providence waterfront. That's a rendition of what was proposed for the, 500 condos and the duplexes and townhouses that the developer was going to put in there. There's federal money to help clear the land and make it build ready, all that kind of thing, but there's nothing there right now. And I was just thinking, just put the thing back up for a second. Wouldn't that be a nice place for a ballpark? If in fact the new ownership of the Paw Sox is going to be shopping around and you know, I measured it out. There's like 25 acres up there in Pawtucket with the parking, not the industrial site parking, but the stadium parking. This is about 27 acres. What a nice spot that would be. All due respect to McCoy, which will celebrate its 75th anniversary in 2017. I'm just saying, can we think out of the box a little bit? By the way, no one's mentioned it to me. It was my own idea. I don't know. I hope it catches fire. Can you imagine a nice summer night on the water, watching a ball game? We'll figure out what to do with Pawtucket if we have to. All right. Next item up, school bus privatization. Headline at WPRI.com. Yeah, well, they always do that. And here's a little bit from Eyewitness News to give you a little context.
City's contract with a longtime busing provider, First Student, ends this school year, and officials have put the new agreement out to bid. Ron Koya, business manager of 1033 of the Laborers International Union, says they represent about 100 bus monitors and they're against privatizing.
We think that it's a service that should remain with the members of 1033. It shouldn't be something that goes out to the lowest bidder. It's the safety and the welfare of our kids that's at stake.
Koya says they've been doing a great job and their hardworking bus monitors should be the ones to continue holding the position.
We think that a service like this belongs to public servants.
Well, Mr. Koya of 1033 makes a pretty argument there. You know, public servants, bus monitors, easy there. Tadevik Pikian brings you a Prickion. That's a tough word. That's a tough name. But I got it on the second try. I've been practicing. Tadevik brings you that story, and I'm glad she did. The argument is a lousy argument. However, having said that, I don't know why I'd want to pay a bus monitor less than $12 an hour, which is what they get, and I don't know that I'd want that job. So I'm not so sure that privatization, which generally squeezes down the wages, you know, for the profit, is the best move. We'll follow that closely. But arguing that they need to be public servants, come on, that's a reach. All right, Twitter town meeting. Speaking of reaching, Providence Journal, the good mayor, the good new mayor of Providence, does the Twitter thing. And for those of you who don't tweet, you can only communicate at 140 characters at a time. You should have a Twitter account. You can follow me at Dan Yorke Show, Y-O-R-K-E. I got a few thousand followers. I don't push it as much as I should, but it is a great news gathering tool. The mayor enjoyed using it as a input tool.
And we're always looking for creative ways to engage people in what we're doing in City Hall. So this is great using social media. And you know, we've had transition committees where they're open to the public. We've had people contribute. We've had listening sessions. So this is all part of the trend of making City Hall much more transparent, much more accessible. And it's great. People want to participate. People want to be part of the process. And you know, why not engage all these great ideas and the energy that already exists? So it went exceptionally well. This is the first time we do it. We're definitely going to do it again.
Well, good for the mayor. He's looking for new options to interact with you, and who can blame him? He only got 40 tweets for this well-publicized hour. Jess is wondering why, by the way, he's using a little mini iPad in front of a big computer. Did kind of look kind of weird. Anyway, social media, important? Yes. Substantial? No, not necessarily. You call a town meeting in a neighborhood and you get 100, 200 people show up. You do a Twittersphere Twitter meeting and you get 40. Social media has a little bit more bark than bite, even still. And speaking of bite, Ohio State just absolutely ran over the Ducks of Oregon last night to win the first ever playoff national championship. This wonderful junior quarterback from Oregon is, I guess, going to the show. I'm not so sure after last night that he's ready for it. He might need another year. Anyway, what do I know? I know this. We got a problem in America today celebrating championships. Did you see some of the video from Columbus? I got a bunch of friends in Ohio, as I said, and you know, you kind of get worried about the celebration in Columbus because I know I had a bunch of buddies out there. This is a real problem. Booze and championships, whether it be, you know, professional or collegiate. It's a psychological problem. I have no idea what the answer is. Do you? Your state of mind is important to me. Now, we were going to play a viewer voicemail. Here's how you call us, by the way, 228-1886. Email me, tweet, Facebook post, you know, kind of like the mayor did. I made a last-minute edit, so we're not going to run the voicemail. We had second thoughts about something we were about to run. I have to check on one thing, And we may see that tomorrow, along with your state of mind. So I know that sounds weird, but sometimes, almost live television, you got to make some calls. When we come back, education choice, big conversation. Stay with us. What are you worried about? Oh, we're back. Welcome in. You know, education is always a hot button issue for everybody. And depending on what stage of life you're in, you care really a lot about it because it's acutely in front of you, or you're just paying for it and you're bothered by it. That's not American, by the way. Here's a policy brief that the Center for Freedom and Prosperity has put out. The case for expanded educational choice in Rhode Island, and troublemaker Mike Stenhouse has re-arrived on the scene for the new year. All right, so you might have beat down, what was it?
Roadmap Rhode Island?
Roadmap Rhode Island. You might have beat it down. You know, I don't know. Some people think you're a lunatic for doing so. The people who would disagree with you, but I know you're not a lunatic.
No, we're involved in pretty important issues. Protecting property rights is important, and having good education for every child in our state is very important.
Well, it's at the core of our economy, right? Gertrude, welcome
correct.
to the
Thank you.
broadcast. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Adjunct scholar for education for the Center for Freedom and Prosperity, which means what? You just kind of hang out with these guys and talk shop every once in a while?
Basically, that's exactly what I do.
Tell everybody what you do, though.
I-
A lot of people know what Mike does. What do you do?
Right. I am a recently retired executive. I was the vice president of community relations and then the vice president of diversity and inclusion at Lifespan. But
Big company, big job.
big company, big job, great company, great job. But after 30 years, almost 30 years in corporate America, pulled out to do my own thing.
Okay, and your own thing is?
Volunteering on many boards in the community. This type of work, I have a passion for education, always have. Spent some time on the Providence School Board also, was the
Back in the day, in the 90s?
90s.
Yeah.
Was also president of the Rhode Island Association of School Committees with Tim Duffy.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Been on the
Great
show
guy.
oftentimes.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Sure,
Well, you and I
so
could
I
you and I could do 12 shows together because I got a lot of thoughts about school committees, which I think ought to be defunct in this state. I think we should be rolling school committees into city councils with school committee expertise and define and hone it down a little bit because we have too many well-meaning, incompetent school committees that can't battle the unions. Since I made that speech, you have 30 seconds on that before we get into education choice.
It's okay.
It's okay that I have that opinion? What do you think?
City councils taking over the school
merging
committees.
school committees and city councils.
Two distinct responsibilities.
Yeah,
You
guess
need, like,
what? One
somebody
taxpayer
focused-
dollar, though.
Oh.
All right, so that's a good one. Okay, I started a fight for which he was not prepared to have tonight, which is a 15-yard penalty.
That wasn't
Flag
in our
me
press
on
release.
that.
That's
No,
right,
come on,
penalty.
Dan, stay on the game. Wait, you have a legislative agenda for this year on school choice.
Well, we haven't announced that yet, but we are working with legislators, and we hope to have an announcement in a few weeks. Right now, we're talking about the need for educational choice. More of it in the
Defined
state.
as?
All right, right now, we have limited charter schools. It's very tough to get new charter schools started. We have a very limited corporate tax credit scholarship program. If you look at what's happening throughout America, the landscape of education is changing, and Rhode Island needs to keep pace. So that means we probably need to expand those two programs and also consider some kind of voucher-type program that would give more families immediate access to a good education tomorrow.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Voucher for public and private together.
Yep, we believe that parents, every family should decide whether it's a public school in their district, not in their district, or a private school that's best, and we believe the money should follow the child.
Elaborate,
Absolutely.
Gertrude.
So, a case in point, I have 3 daughters. They're all out of school now, of course. But when I was single parent, low income, and my first daughter was ready to go to school, and I lived in Providence, so my only choice was the public Providence school system. And based on my mom, always pushing education, and then my mom actually would move into a city or town based on the quality of the education system because she had 6 children and she couldn't afford to send them to all private schools. So she was smart enough, wise enough, very wise woman to investigate the school systems in different cities and towns, and then she would move us accordingly. But I could not afford to move at that time, so I actually, in my low income, made a decision I had to put my daughter in a Catholic school. I put her in St. Paul School, $55 a month. Although I am not Catholic, and I was not Catholic then either, but I knew that in order for my daughter to be what I thought safe and to get a good education, I had to pay.
How'd it work out?
Worked out very well, thank God. All of them actually went through the Catholic school system up until high school.
And so you think, let me see if I can guess in advance of conversation, you think that you should have been able to do that for the bubble, for what
Absolutely.
you're already paying in taxpayer money.
That is absolutely it.
Yeah.
Absolutely it.
You know, okay, I'm going to pause here early so I can come back and we can have a comprehensive debate on this. I'm a Catholic school parent and I disagree. Stay with us. Welcome back. All right, so I've had this conversation on the radio ad infinitum with callers, and generally I'm on the losing side of the phone lines, and I accept that. But here I am saying, if you were talking about school choice, Gertrude Jones, by the way, Mike Stenhouse, Center for Freedom and Prosperity, educational choice programs coming up for legislative conversation this year. They always do. You think you got more momentum this year?
Yeah, we do.
All right. I would like to see a split conversation between inter and intra-school choice in the public schools. In other words, I think your example of having to send your kids to the local Catholic school is interesting, but I would have wanted to have both opportunity and a bus to achieve the opportunity to bring them to a school that had been well researched and you felt more comfortable in.
Absolutely.
I think the discrimination in the public school system is that the kid on the south side of Providence
Has to go to the school in that district.
yeah, and can't go to Barrington.
Right.
That is correct.
That I'm with you 100%. But the idea that me, who spent tens and tens of thousands of dollars in tuition money sending my child to a Catholic school, I don't think I have the right to demand that, because that was an investment that I made above and beyond what I paid in property taxes. So that's where I
Well,
am.
we believe the larger issue is taxpayer dollars are here to educate our kids. And you hear the governor, you hear everybody, even Roadmap Rhode Island had an education component. If the goal is to educate our kid, then why should it matter where that child goes to get the best education? Why should it matter where taxpayer, if we're looking to maximize our investment in education, shouldn't we ensure that the child receives the best education possible? And even if that means leaving a failed public school and they choose to go to, why should it matter?
Well, you tell me why it should matter, or it shouldn't matter.
Because the money should follow the student. So in my case, if I wanted to, and that's what my youngest daughter went to Hope High School, so after Catholic school, Hope High School, and it was a disaster. And I'm working full time, still a single parent. Her father passed away, and it was so horrendous for me, the behavior I was seeing from her grades, report cards, and I vowed, I said, if I have to send her back to Hope High School, I will stay home and I will homeschool her. I will quit working and I will find a way to make money from home, and I will actually homeschool her versus sending her back there. And this is after conversations with the assistant principal, the principal, teachers, trying to figure out how can I make this work. But it wasn't the right fit for her. What I would have done, if I had the means, I would have found what I ended up doing. I ended up putting her in St. Ray's, and she graduated from St. Ray's. But now instead of paying $55 a month, I was paying $700 a month. But that was the choice I had to make in order to maintain my livelihood for her and I. But I shouldn't have to make that type of choice because there were no other choices. So, like, were there least expensive choices, or what was I supposed to do? If I had the money that I was paying for taxes, and I think the number was something like $13,000 per student we were spending in Providence at the time. Give me $13,000. I'll hire my own tutors. I will get her books, a computer, online learning, and I will.
I hear you, but as someone who served well, I'm sure, on a school committee and has been a pretty successful person in business, you know that metric doesn't exactly follow. I mean, like, give me $13,000. I mean, it's not that easy. You keep carving out, and it's one of the arguments against charter schools that, like, Cumberland is arguing now with the Blackstone Valley Prep, and I would say that the assets outweigh the liabilities in that conversation. But it's not as easy if you're my two students at $13,000 apiece and I'm the district and I say, okay, I'm just going to send money and follow wherever you want to go. That is not easily accounted for when it comes to administrative costs and all that kind of stuff. The number of classrooms that you've got to keep open versus the number of kids that are coming in and out. It's not as simple. The formula is not that simple. You're not telling me it is, are you?
What's the goal, though, Dan Ray? If the goal is if the output is an educated viable person in the community at the end of that expenditure than if I reach that goal.
Versus not reaching it. And you're not, and the interesting study, there's a number of myths out there about school choice, and we talk about draining money. It really doesn't. What we show that with a well-crafted choice bill, there's actually more money available left in the public school system per student, and there's actually more money spent, public and private, in the state because the voucher can be used and then complemented and supplemented often by the parent. So you're getting more bang for your educational dollar. And it's a win-win-win across the board. It's kind of a myth that you're draining money out of the public school system if you craft a bill properly. We intend to do that.
We're spending a lot of money, as you know, on educating the 142,000 students
Roughly,
in
yeah.
Rhode Island. Millions and millions of dollars every year. What are you getting for it? What are the employers
that's
in
a
Rhode
fair
Island getting
question.
for
I'm
it?
not so sure that's germane. I'm short on time here. I got an idea, though. One more thought, and don't go away.
If we could,
Sometimes I can feel you just kind of crawling into the TV, trying to get into the middle of these conversations on education because it requires a lot of thinking. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to ask my two guests, Mike and Gertrude, to stick around tonight and have an extended conversation that you will see tomorrow as we debate this school choice situation. That makes sense to you? I hope it does, because I'm a little puzzled over the logic, and I want to get back to that conversation about public and private because I think there is a significant distinction. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow at noon until 3 on WPRO, where you can telephone the program, and we may actually talk about this. And I'll see you back here tomorrow night, 7:30 and 11:30 on MyRI TV. Thanks for watching.